that it became a national platform. The Minnesota territory that was the AWA became big enough for a period of time that it became a national platform. ECW was that last sort of, and it's interesting because it kind of kicked off way after the territory system was out of style, but it was the last sort of territory to become a truly national, and you could argue international, promotion that started literally as, this is Philadelphia's independent wrestling promotion. And within 6 years, it's got a magazine, it's got a video game, it's got action figures. It's something that is on the tip of the tongue of people that are watching WCW and WWE. It helps too that this is kind of when the internet was in its infancy, so you could get these hardcore fans that you would hear about it. But between that was that crossover period of time too, where magazines were still relevant, but the internet was becoming a thing. I remember, and I feel very lucky to have grown up in that period of time where it was like wrestling magazines were still relevant. And I was still going to the newsstand in the mid 90s, even into the late 90s, and buying a ton. Like I buy 5 or 6 wrestling magazines every single month. You'd have WWE and Raw magazine. WCW had a magazine, but then you had the aftermags were still, you get Pro Wrestling Illustrated. I think you'd still get Inside Wrestling. Wow World of Wrestling or whatever it was called was a magazine that came out for a while. But so like in like 94, 95, if you hadn't found it on your television yet, you'd start hearing about this ECW stuff. And then you go hunting to find it on your television. And then by 96, if you got dial-up internet, you're starting to get the newsletters, you're starting to go to the websites, you're starting to hit the message board, you're starting to hit the chat rooms, and it just goes and goes and goes. And I think that because organic builds were so different back then, and it took so much effort, and you became so attached to it, and it became yours. So when you see it succeed, you really do feel like you're a part of that success, and it really does become a part of who you are. And I'm telling you, man, I sat there in the Hammerstein Ballroom at ECW's last pay-per-view when they had no TV, no pay-per-view, and 2 live shows being promoted after this one. But there was still a pay-per-view slot. There was still a cable slot that said ECW is going to get another pay-per-view. And I remember sitting in the balcony going like, it's the Hammerstein Ballroom. It's literally where AEW runs today. And AEW is a national promotion. It's a huge, famous venue. It's a pay-per-view. And you're sitting there going, well, it's not. ECW is not going under. I mean, haters will tell you it is. It's not going under, right? No, there's going to be another pay-per-view, right? There's going to be another TV deal, right? And it just kind of, it was everything, and then it was nothing. And it's such a crazy experience to have lived. But I think that that's why, for those of us that were there, we're still so attached to it. And I think that that's also why there's such a legend to it that people who are now much younger are still finding it and still like looking at it. And when you watch it now, just the aesthetic of it, seeing it looks like a VHS tape. When you picture ECW in your mind and the photos of what you saw or the video of what you saw, you see it on VHS. You see whether you don't even have to grow up with VHS. You could have never had a VCR in your life. But when you picture ECW, that's what you picture. It's this almost like legendary time that could have only existed in that period of time when there was like WWE and WCW, the sports entertainment stuff, but then there was ECW. It was this real thing that subscribed to no rules whatsoever, including using copyrighted music. It's just nothing mattered. It was crazy town. So the fact that like I go to a show like that in Philly and ECW is as appreciated as it was. And I love the phase that we're in with ECW appreciation, because there was a while where the idea of appreciating ECW was trying to recapture it, right? Like trying to do, whether it was WWE, whether it was TNA, like trying to do those reunion shows. And I watched every single one of them, whether it was like One Night Stand, whether it was, what was that? Hardcore Justice was the TNA ECW reunion show, something like that. What that was that the TNA reunion show? I don't want to mislabel it. When TNA did the ECW reunion, but they couldn't use any of the copyrighted names because by then WWE already had the trademarks. So like Balls Mahoney was like Cajones, and it was like, was it Hardcore Justice? Yeah. So I watched all of them because you did want to recapture it. But I really like, maybe it's because I'm getting older too, I really like the fact that we can now, and I feel like this is what happened on Raw last night, you can appreciate ECW for what it was. You can you bring it up as this almost foundation for what we're doing now. You pay homage to it. You don't try to recapture it. You don't try to repeat it. It's just something that you pay homage to. And you go, kids, if you don't know what we're talking about, get on YouTube, get on Peacock, and watch some of this because it'll blow. It's still mind blowing. And I thought that was the feeling. You know, I felt it a little bit when Paul Heyman starts the show by saying that, he's a god in Philadelphia. By saying, and we have that sound, right, Susumu? Can you hit me with Paul Heyman telling the Philadelphia audience, but the ECW audience, why not? The Philadelphia audience that he's a god, a humble god, but a god nonetheless.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. For those of you watching at home, that means, and in this city more than any place else on the face of the planet, I'm not in God mode. In this city, I'm God. They would have a statue of me in this city, but I'm way too humble to accept the credit that I do deserve for everything that I've done for this industry, both here in front of the camera and behind the scenes. Bluntly, I am the GOAT.
Yes, humble, too humble for a statue. He would get one. It'd be right next to the Rocky statue. It'd have the long trench coat and everything. It'd have the laminates around his neck. Isn't that amazing that Paul Heyman was literally running the show, but felt like I better have a laminate on in case people don't know who I am backstage. Yeah, so I like that, but what I was losing my mind for until Paul came out of pocket was when he started listing the ECW alum. When he started with the Sandman, I go, did he just say the Sandman? You know, anytime, the fact that like New Jack is in a 2K game, I lose my mind for all that stuff because I don't know, it's just so special to me. But Paul started listing all the ECW alum, all the people that have helped turn Philadelphia into the wrestling city that it is. And then, well, he did the unthinkable. Hit me with it, Susumu.
In the name of the Sandman, smashing a beer can into his head. In the name of New Jack being the only real gangster in his business. In the name of Rob Van Dam smoking his opponents all the way down at the corner of Swanson and Ripner. In the name of the late great Sabu, innovative move that nobody ever saw before. In the name of the late great Tommy Dreamer. Yeah, I know he's not dead yet, but he should be.
Oh.
He's still alive? Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. Listen, that's not funny. I thought for a second, when Paul Heyman gets out there, right, and he starts listing all the ECW alum, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And then he mentioned the Dudley Boys. He mentioned the Saint. And I was like, oh, did we just get a rare Paul Heyman mistake? Did Paul Heyman just flub because it was just flowing? And then he instantly, with, precise, laser sharp comedic timing, goes, no, I know he's not dead, but he should be. I go, nope, Paul Heyman did that on purpose. Paul Heyman did that on purpose. Why to the innovator of violence? I don't understand. I know things have not always been great between Paul Heyman and Tommy Dreamer, and I only know what I read in these sheets, the sheets. But, I was happy Tommy got a mention. He's the innovator of violence, the heart and soul of ECW. But apparently there is no love lost between Paul Heyman and Tommy Dreamer. And actually, our fill-in producer, Andre, was texting me. He was like, everything counts. Maybe they're setting something up. Maybe Tommy Dreamer's going to come in at the end of the show. Maybe, maybe they're going to do a story and Tommy's, oh, you said that thing about me and now I'm going to help Jey Uso win. I was like, bro, Paul was just being Paul there. I don't think so, buddy. I think Paul just decided to take one for himself on that one. and he did. And I guess if anybody's entitled to it, it's Paul Heyman. But I know I was getting multiple texts from many of us here in the Pro Wrestling Nation family going like, why do you have to, not in Philly, why do you have to do that? Why? Still, if Paul doesn't like Tommy to that level, but is still willing to mention him in that list of ECW alum, I guess that's the rose-colored glasses to put on. That's the way to spin this in a positive direction. So, whatever. Paul lists all the ECW alum, and I thought it was fantastic for it. He to paraphrase a family member of Jay's, he smells what Paul Heyman is cooking. And before Paul Heyman can issue that challenge to Jay goes, I get what you're saying. Extreme Rules. Let's do it. We're in Philly. Let's do Extreme Rules. And so we get the main event of the show, which is Braun Breaker versus Jey Uso, Extreme Rules. And again, going back to the ECW homage, I love this era of not recreating ECW, realizing that ECW is not going to be recreated. The people who created it aren't, it's been decades. Cart full of weapons. Like we saw, New Jack would either do the shopping cart or the garbage can, of course. The only thing I missed, there was two things. I feel like there should have been a toaster or some kind of household appliance in that cart, because New Jack would have had a toaster or a computer keyboard or a blender or something like that. And there was no guitar, because there was nothing better than when New Jack would pull a guitar out of the garbage can, which for Jay was a garbage can and a shopping cart, by the way. There was nothing better than when New Jack would pull a guitar out of the garbage can. He would start strumming. He would start strumming it, and he'd move with it and everything, and then boom, swing it around and crash it over his opponent's head. That's what I would have loved to have seen that from Jey Uso. But we pay the homage, we pay our respects, we get into this match. And I really feel like, and I hope that people recognize this, I really feel like with Jay, there were a lot of people very concerned when he lost the World Heavyweight Championship to Gunther. When Jey Uso went down to Gunther in that moment where it was like, you're kidding me, that's it? Remember everybody was saying that? You're kidding, 3 months? No more title reign? I was just getting into this title reign. Jey just goes down, he just gets choked out, and he's done? I don't think you can argue that Jey Uso has been elevated from pre-WrestleMania. Go back to pre-Royal Rumble even. Even after he won the Royal Rumble, you can't tell me that Jey Uso, as a character, is not in a more elevated position now than he was at the Royal Rumble. When he won the Royal Rumble, people other than me, who maybe predicted it, because like Paul Heyman, I am also goated, but most people were like, what? Jey Uso wins the Royal Rumble? Why would Jey Uso win the Royal Rumble? Now, Jey Uso would be in that conversation of people who might win the Royal Rumble, because he's a legit babyface main event guy right now. And that's only come since that world title reign. So the point is that, like, if you let time pass, it's going to matter not the way somebody loses the title, but the way somebody is portrayed after they've lost that title. And I think that there's no denying that Jey Uso was elevated by the title run and has now come out of that title run as a established main event championship contender. And I think that that's what you got with Jey Uso, and that's got to be the goal, right? That's why you put the World Heavyweight Championship on someone like Jey Uso. It's not so you can just keep them champion forever. It's so you can elevate them, establish them as a contender in this World Heavyweight Championship world. And then once you take the title off, they stay